Welcome to the Wilderness Attitude Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Waddell. I hope everybody's having a great day. Hope everybody's striving to better themselves and get out there and take the world by storm. And if not, then you can live vicariously through our series in Alaska. The last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been getting to know these men and women from Alaska and the different things that they do for work there and what they do playing there. And it's just been amazing learning about Alaska, some little things here and there, learning about these people, learning about what makes them tick, what makes Alaska so great. And I really hope that you guys are enjoying this Alaska trip that we're on. I know that for myself, thinking about the podcast that I've had and the people we've interviewed here, Alaska's, you don't want to overglorify Alaska, right? But I mean, Alaska is epic. Alaska is that next step, right, for anything. I mean, rafting, backcountry skiing, fishing, hunting, sightseeing. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a hunter or not or whatever. That Alaska is amazing. For me, listening to some of these stories, these people that all grew up there, man, these people are hardcore. They're badass, right? I mean, they're gritty. But it sure has kind of opened my eyes to who I am down here in the lower 48, man. Like, I kind of feel like a pansy compared to some of these people. I mean, I'm not so sure about doing a solo coastal brown bear hunt on Kodiak Island with a muzzleloader. I'm not so, that gives me the chills thinking about it. I don't think I got cojones big enough for that. But these stories have opened my mindset to getting myself mentally prepared better and physically prepared better, and really challenging the wilderness to challenge me back a little bit more here where I live in Colorado and around my areas here, because I don't know if I'm ready for that Alaska adventure. I mean, I think I am, but there's a lot of people who think they are who aren't. So I hope that these Alaskan podcasts have sparked your interest. Maybe if you're not going to make it to Alaska and hunt or go there to fish or whatever, maybe it's opened your eyes that, man, I need to do better here. I need to be better every day. And the other aspect to these men and women that we've interviewed, man, have you noticed this theme of how selfless they are and how they love to give to people and how they love to empower people and how they love to watch people grow and become their dream? It just seems like they're great people. I can't wait to meet them in person, shake their hands, and get to know them a little bit more. And as you've heard in the podcast, I'm trying to figure out how to trade hunts. I'm trying to figure out how I can manage to get into a Dall sheep hunt, because I don't know. I don't have 15 grand laying around. I don't know about you. So I don't know how we're going to get it done, but we're sure as heck going to try some point in time. Enjoy these podcasts. These men and women are great. Kick back, tune in, and enjoy. Hi everybody, it's Brandon with Wilderness Attitude. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We are live on Facebook. I hope you're tuning in, and we're also going to record this and throw it at you on some other media platforms. So hang in there if you don't get to watch all of it today, but thanks for joining us. Right out of the gate, I just want to thank everybody for being a part of Wilderness Attitude. Please make some time to head to our sponsors. They do a great job helping us out, which allows us to give you high quality content, great people on this show, and be able to bring you, excellent video and pictures and sound. We really strive to be the best at what we do in our editing process and what we give to you. So thank you very much for being a fan. But let's move on to our interview today, and I think you'll really enjoy getting to know this gentleman. He is what I would consider just an all-around Alaskan badass. You go back through some of his social media and go through some of his stuff and some of what he's doing and articles he's written and films he's been a part of, and I think that you'll see that that he's definitely has a passion for the outdoors, conservation, and being a great role model for from kids to adults. I think even adults could learn from this young man. So, without further ado, Austin Manelick, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for the accolades. A little bit far stretched on that. Just trying to be a good person, you know.
Hey, we're all striving to be a better person every day, and if you, at least we hope everybody listening is trying to be, right. I
Absolutely.
think that it's not easy some days, but at the same time, as long as you're working at it and you're putting one foot in front of the other, and putting your feet where your mouth's at, then I think you're doing all right. And
Absolutely.
there is no stretching what I said about you. You definitely are living what you're preaching. And so, I appreciate your humbleness. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, I think you got some good stuff going on. So let's dive into something that I wanted to right out of the gate. I want to get right into Mission Alaska. This is something that you helped create with your brother and a couple friends. And I think that what I look back through in the social media part of that, man, you guys got some awesome adventures and some killer stories. And on your website, just some of the videos you've produced are excellent, and some of the passion and some of the stuff that's coming out is high quality. You guys are really putting hard effort into this, and I just want to give you kudos for what I got to watch, and I'm really looking forward to following you through more of your journeys that you guys are creating. So my
Every day.
question, right? So my question with to Mission Alaska is where did this come from? Was this a couple guys sitting around with some beers, figuring out something, or was this what sparked Mission Alaska to move forward?
Well, what sparked it was actually in the college dorm rooms and then apartments. I went to Penn State after living in Alaska my whole life and went out into the world, wanted to learn, and I came back home as quick as I could and wanted to get a start in the outdoor industry. And that's kind of what college really gave me, was a direction of where I wanted to go. And, in the last 10 years or so, there's been a paradigm shift between television, podcasts, vlogs, social media. And basically, I was sneaking away from college on my summer breaks and coming home, and I wanted to film something and do something different. And I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And still I'm working on that. And every day it's a work in process of just how to get better and then also how to monetize, which in this day, self-promotion, social media, you never know what you're going to get. And just being real, I think, and authentic is the most important aspect that you can be, even just as a person.
Right. Even when you look at Mission Alaska in a format of followers or, whatever digital way you want to measure yourself, I think that if you're doing it organically and you're doing it honestly and you're representing yourself in a true form, it doesn't matter if you have 10 followers or 10,000. At least you know those people are with you, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Identifying your niche and who your followers are and talking to them. And even now, I see, you mentioned organic. Mission Alaska does not do any paid promotions. And now you see people in the industry trying to catch up. They don't have as many followers, and they feel they've got to put a dollar sign behind what they're doing so that people will see it. And I feel if you're being organic, if you're being real and true to who you are and what your brand is, it'll show through. And you really are going to preach to your crowd. And now I talk about preaching to a crowd. I'm like, what crowd? Why would anybody want to follow along? It's like, an inspiration to youth and getting out. Now I get out there in the field. I'm like, hey, Dan Worth, I saw you out there. You got the governor's sheep tag. What's going on? Maybe he wasn't inspired at all by what I was doing, but I saw him, and now social media is just funny. You start to see the people, and you call them by their Instagram handle versus their name.
Instead of their real name.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Wilderness attitude.
Yeah, no, it's branding.
No, Brandon, right.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's the same thing when when I first started hitting some trade shows last year, and I'm like, that's and you call them by their social media name because every day that's what you're looking at, right? And as you're scrolling, doing things and liking things, that's what you remember. It just embeds, and so I'm lucky that usually I have someone with me that remembers their names and different things. I'm like, God, tell me what their name is. I'm kind of bad with that. I shouldn't admit that openly, probably, but it's the truth.
We're human.
That's a fact. I'm good at some things and not as good at others, and hopefully whoever stands next to me is the yin and the yang of the deal, right? And that
right.
Surround yourself with the people that make you better. So I got a question. In your early years of being a young boy and different things like that, who got you into the wilderness? Who was your positive influence that put you in this direction that you're on?
So really, I can credit everything to my father. He was in and out of our lives growing up, but whenever he came back to Alaska, he was a guide, first off, and then he retired and started working in the oil fields. But when we came back, he always asked me what I wanted to do, and it was always fishing or hunting. And we would go out,
right.
And Greg Manelick, he would put me first. He'd always put his kids first. He wouldn't make us film him, very selfless. He was always making it about us. So it was, well, what do you want to do first? I want to get a moose. My dad took me out and shot a giant moose in western Alaska, and I'm still chasing that moose. I got a good one last year, but at any rate, and that kind of transcends now to my hunting style. And like what I like to do is just a selfless approach, because far too often, when we dive into a hunt, as you know, and a lot of hunters know, you can lose friends, you can gain friends. You can walk away feeling sore, not just because you missed an animal, and or not just because you took a beautiful animal, but it wasn't the animal that you wanted. Kind of our style is we try to go out, and if somebody hasn't shot that target animal, the selfless thing to do, and kind of my thoughts is the sportsman thing to do, is not make it a competition, but you're competing against yourself and the animals, not each other. So we try to get that all honed in, and then give that away like my dad did to me and my brother and my family growing up. So it's just a selfless approach to the outdoors. And at the end of the day, even if you don't get anything, like I was just on a recent goat hunt, my buddy swung and missed on a Boone and Crockett Billy. I put him forward, and we're like, the hunt, it never ends, man. We're going to go back, and we're closer for that. So my dad got me into it when I was young, and still to this day, I have the effects of those early childhood memories of really going out and doing stuff that an 8-year-old should not be doing, climbing these mountains. And I didn't know how dangerous it was. And now I go out, I'm kind of numb to the experience. But my dad really, really was a positive role model in my life that really encouraged that.
That's awesome to have a father like that. And I think that's the only way to bring people into the wilderness and into hunting or into fishing or into rock climbing or into anything, right?
Yep.
You have to play that leader role that gets them to a certain point, but then you get out of the way, right? And you let them grow, you let them do their thing. And with having that, you can tell through your films and through some of your stuff that you're doing and like your Mission Alaska that you really do embody that type of spirit. And through the years of you doing this thus far and giving that kind of attitude to people in that positive way and in that leadership role, has there been any one moment with yourself or with a friend or with family or anything that you think that really defined that for you and put the exclamation point on the value of being that way?
Absolutely. I just got married to my high school sweetheart last year. We just celebrated our year anniversary. And when we got back together, she noticed that I loved hunting, and she wanted to encourage me in my career and whatever path that I was going to take, because if I don't do that, I'm not as happy of a person. So if she just spurred me along and can continue to make me a better person and supports my hunting and my adventures, that really has been kind of the guiding light. And with that being said, she got interested in hunting, and her dad grew up, and I could go into her dad because my dad, he continued to work on the North Slope, and my father-in-law, her father, Vince Pokrivke, you see all these longbows behind me, and I hunt with all sorts of weapons. You know, I don't discriminate against weapons. I'm longbow, compound, crossbow, rifle, muzzleloader. You call me, I've got a confused identity in hunting, but I feel that is one of my stronger points. You know, it's like, hey, what season is it? Muzzleloader? Cool, I got the muzzleloader. Archery season? Well, what are the conditions? I might go with the stick bow. So, but Vince Pokrivke, you know, that selfless hunter, he got me into traditional archery. And so that was always instilled in her, was traditional archery. So we got into hunting. And the first thing I said, Jordan, we got to get you your hunter safety. If you want to hunt, it doesn't matter if it's a required regulation or not. We need to start there. So we got her hunter safety. And over the years, we've had some of our absolute best moments together. I mean, highs of tears and lows of tears, and, you know, and developing as a hunter. And it kind of just threw me back to square one. And also some people, it's just that patience that you have to have with your spouse. Because sometimes when you're on a 10-day backpacking dog sheep hunt and you're telling your buddy, this is the moment, like, you need to move right now, it's a little more abrasive than it is. It's okay, you know, like we'll just slip up here. And so there's a different take to it. But just some of my greatest moments have been with my wife just recently. And now everyone's like, hey, when are you going to get back to hunting? You know, I'm like, well, I'm having too much fun. So like this year, all my short films are really around my wife. And her taking all of the first Alaska big game species. So I'm really putting her first, and that's just strengthened our relationship, and our passion together. It grows every day. So that's the exclamation point, is my wife. And my passion too is I love to film and love it for everybody to feel good at the end of the day. And I feel like, hey, if I film and I catch this kill shot, whether it's a miss or whatever, as a hunter, I killed him with the camera, and I did what I needed to do, and I feel good no matter what. And everyone's, how do you feel good? I just missed. I'm like, it was awesome. What do you mean? Like, we did it. We beat him. We beat him on this given day, and we didn't make a great shot. That's all right. He's still alive, you know. Or, hey, we're going to track for the next 3 days, and we're not going to give up, and going to do the right sportsman thing and notch the tag, even if we don't get him. So that whole exclamation point has been my wife, my lightning rod in life.
That's an awesome explanation. I think that having a partner in this situation is amazing. They'll go in the field, but even having one at home that just still supports where you're at and what you're doing, even if they don't go afield, is incredible as well. And I, like, to touch on the end of your comment, I've got a friend of mine, Ricky, and he hunted this year and didn't get a bull notched, and neither did I. I mean, there's a handful of us that didn't get one this year, but Ricky had 4 misses this year. He was calling in bulls like a total pro, and and I hunted with him on the last day, and we got into some elk that morning, got a long shot on a little guy later in the day, some different things, but he was really bummed, man. I mean, we were walking out of there, and he was just not good. And I just kept patting him on the back, and I was like, Ricky, dude, you had an epic archery season. Epic season. There are people that would die to have all the experiences you had. You were intimate with big bulls all month. So you missed, and so things happened, and you had drama with landowners, and you had all these things, but look where you're standing today. You persevered through the whole month, and you are a better hunter after this month. You are a better caller. You learned so much about these elk, so much about yourself, so much about hunting, so much about Mother Nature, so much about things that you can't control, that influence what you can control. And you're standing here today, we're walking out of here. I'm like, dude, you need to shake this deal you got off, and you need to look at this in this light, because this was amazing.
Pull him out of the downward spiral we're
Yeah.
richer for the experience. I mean, you can't
Absolutely.
pay an animal to show up on any given day, and so when they do, it's a gift. It's a
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah. I mean, he even told me, he's like, Brandon, the snot was dripping off its nose. And I'm like, dude, that's amazing. You
Absolutely.
were that close to an animal in his kingdom, and he owns this. And you were there and you got to see that, and you didn't even get to draw your bow. I'm like, I'd have went home right there. I'd have been like, that was amazing. How do I
Yep.
top that? I can't even do this, you know?
Yep.
And it's a cool way. Well, it's not really cool. It's the only way to paint hunting, right? Because the kill is this very tiny moment of the epic story, right? An adventure.
Absolutely. Well, and the kill is just a physical representation of the memories that were had and made. I mean, one of my best friends, Kaylin, who's also part of Mission Alaska, we just went down on this insane mountain goat hunt where I called the biologist. I did my research. There was nothing on this, and there's very minimal chance for success. So we went down, timed the weather window. We got in like, we're feeling, oh my gosh, we're pros. We're absolute pros. We fought cliffs. We got up and into their bedroom like, oh, there they are. Okay, there's some nannies, there's some kids. All of a sudden, we saw just this giant mountain Wookiee. I mean, the coolest looking animal you've ever seen. He is in his domain, and he's kind of looking at us at 300 yards and just glaring at us like, do you realize where you're at? You take one step, and you're gone. And
Yeah.
there's and then he missed, and he's in a downward spiral, just like you're talking about with your buddy. He's in a downward spiral. And I said the only way he missed, he actually gave him a haircut. You can't tell in the field
Right.
when you're looking at a 3-inch
Yeah.
screen. We thought he hammered him. I mean, we're tearing up on the side of the mountain. We're just like, oh, he's dead. He's gone. And all of them disappeared and got together, so we couldn't tell. There was no blood on any of them. We're like, oh, he's dead. And we spent 3 hours fighting the side of this mountain, and it almost took both of our lives. I mean, you slip in goat country, you could
got
be a
long
goner.
slide. Yep.
Absolutely. And he's in a downward spiral. I'm like, the only way to do this, man, is we got back home, looked at the footage, and I said, yeah, you absolutely missed that animal, and he's fine. We watched him in the footage walk away, and we're celebrating and hugging each other, and we just let him go. So that Billy, I'm still trying to go after him. Obviously, I'm going to go back out when there's another weather window. But I said the only way we can make this right is it's a sportsman thing to do. Not your tag. You report it, even though we watched him walk off. You grazed him, so you tag. You make your tag. So he did the right thing. Notched his tag. Reported his hunt. He can't hunt, so I get to go back up, which is great. And I said the only way that we can pull you out of this downward spiral right now is we got to edit this short film right now, and it's right. It just feels right, and we did the right thing to do. So, I mean, he's going to be thinking about it. I said, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to go goat hunting ever again? And he looked at me and he
Right.
said, I will go every year I'm physically capable. I'm like, dude, see, that's what it's about. You and me are richer for this experience. We hugged it out, broed it out. We made it out with our lives. Some Devil's Club thorns in our wrists and our hands, but we're better for that. And it's almost like it wasn't meant to be. I don't know if there's the greater spirit, whether you're religious,
Right.
God, or something like that. Maybe we would have shot that goat. And actually, after he shot and missed, 2 other mountain billies came out right in front of me, and I laid down. I looked at him. I'm like, man, this is going to be
Nope.
tough just to get one out. And they're like, nope. And I just let them go. They walked off, and that is seared into my mind. Just like, I'll never forget that. I can't even explain him. This mountain
Right.
shaggy carpet just comes out, and they're yellow against the snow, and he just came out on a rock and just looked right at us. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's what it's
etched.
about.
It gets etched in your brain, doesn't it? I mean, it's like every time you close your eyes, you see it. Every time you go to sleep at night, you see it. Every time you wake up in the morning, you see it. And it's just like, it drives you crazy.
Yep. And then if you film it, you got a short film, and everybody else is going to see it. You're like, oh my goodness. That's part of the fun of filming the hunt as well. Even though I carry up a tripod and a camera, and then a rifle
Right.
or whatever. I mean, you're carrying up not twice the amount, but definitely it's like carrying up another weapon at least.
Yeah. it is. It's different when you go from the 50 mark to the 65 because you're carrying what you need or what you want. You may not need it, but you want it. And it's funny how you find the ability to do what you want, right?
Absolutely.
And I think, like, I haven't had the chance to be in Alaska yet, and I haven't had a chance to do. I mean, we've got the Weemanooch here for goats and for sheep, and it is definitely brutal country. There's no doubt about it. But it's not the same as Alaska, moisture-wise, weather-wise, during the same hunt time frames, right? So,
Yep.
You mentioned that there's a lot of times where you and your friends or you and your brothers of Mission Alaska that go out and you guys are putting yourselves in places that a lot of people shouldn't be. Some people have no right to be there, right? Some of you know it well enough. You've been through it enough. You've pushed yourself through it. I did this Razor Ridge climb thing where I had to go up over this deal with my boat. I mean, I was a little intimidated. Like, I was like, yeah, one wrong move, and I got 800 feet that way and 500 feet that way. And it's not like I'll be sliding. I'll be falling that far. Done.
You're gone. You're done.
Yeah.
You're gone.
And it got me a little rattled. Like, and then I got up there and I kind of thought to myself, okay, holy shit. Like, well, does this actually go up? Because if I got to go back down that shit, I am not happy. Like this,
yeah.
I mean, like I might just have to stay here because.
And you're on a whole nother level when that adrenaline takes over. And Kale on this hunt's like, did you see that? And I was like, no, I was really focused just on my footing and making sure that if I didn't nail every step that I would be dead. So I wasn't looking at the spots that were extremely critical. It's just like this.
Right.
It's a mentality that comes over to you. And that's why I say I'm kind of numb to the experience. So I always catch myself in the middle of the hunt looking back, hey, are you okay? Can you make it? And helping people up and trying to make it like a pleasurable experience, because I call it breaking. Alaska will break you. And I mean, the hunts will break you up in the Weemanooch. You absolutely will be broken. And a lot of people, even I've hunted in Oregon, I've hunted different places, like, oh, Alaska's this grand place. Well, I know if you step off, one of these logging roads and you don't have a GPS, you could be lost for a real long time.
A long time.
A lot, and even people go missing every year, and there's different situations. Just everybody faces. I mean, it's not just Alaska. It's just this lore of greatness. It's just being out there and testing yourself. Heck, I've been lost hunting public land in Pennsylvania, and I was on the New York border. I popped out in New York and was like, where am I? I walked the roads, and somebody finally pulled over. It was like, you looking lost, bud. I'm like, I am. So
I am.
I am. A little bit of help. It's dark. People are worried, and now we've got cell phones and whatnot. Which is great. And I've always instead of bringing a rangefinder, I usually bring my spot GPS, the save my ass button, where you can press that. Like, okay, Coast Guard, somebody's going to find me, and you want to have that when you go on these goat hunts. If you got functionality and you do fall, or a sheep hunt, moose, anything, just wilderness emergencies, it's good to have
You could just be where I'm at in the Rocky Mountains elk hunting, and you're just trying to get out to go to your son's football game. You take a shortcut, you answer the phone to talk to your wife, you put your sticks in this hand, and the next thing you know, you slip, you save, but in your save, you trip again, and you end up falling down a ravine 6 feet and getting 5 staples in the top of your head just because you're going to your son's football game, right? And lo and behold, within a week, you've got a new Garmin inReach because your wife was on the phone with you when you said, "Oh shit, I just hit my head, I'm bleeding all over," and then phone call over, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I know.
And then the rescue, and I'm huge on self-rescue, like where it's like, hey, I'm a skookum dude. I have the ability to self-rescue because a lot of people go out. Wherever it may be, and they realize I'm way in over my head. They reach a breaking point. Right. The fastest thing you can do is hit that, that button or that emergency call. And that might actually be taking away, like if you don't have the grit, that might be taking away from somebody who really needs it, somebody who is dying, somebody who really does need that help. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm broken, I'm bleeding. Am I okay? Can I make it out? Yeah, I'm going to make it to the game. I might be the goofy dude with blood coming down my face, but I'm going to make it to the game.
That was the gig. It was like, I stood up and I was like, okay, this ain't good. Okay. take my shirt off, bundle it up, put it on my head, wrench my hat down, and I'm like, okay, GPS, all right, 2 miles to go. All right, let's go. I know that if I make it to this Y, that's a half mile from here, that I might run into more people, maybe not. But at that point, I'll just it's downhill, most all of it. So I'm going to bail it down, stay on the trail, no more shortcuts. And, and then I got to the bottom to the highway. And of course, I got blood all over me. And I waved down this lady and she looked at me like, hell no, I ain't stopping on the highway and talking to some guy with blood all over him. So then I find myself at the truck taking my phone and photoing the top of my head, because I was like, I wanted to see if I had, am I just bleeding or do I got brain matter on the top of my head? Because when I hit that rock, I heard a bunch of cracking, right? And I'm sure it was just my neck compressing, but I thought for sure I'd jack myself up good. And then I got in the truck, got up, called my wife. I was 10 miles from Purgatory Ski Resort where they have a emergency center, and I rolled in there and it all turned out good. I made it to halftime at the game, and then I went back up on the mountain when the game was over, and I kept hunting for the next 3 days.
World's greatest dad. Because
it worked out.
Right there. Right on.
I can tell you that rock is as good as it ever was. And, and I passed by it a bunch more times through the season, and I just kept looking at it going, you. And then my hunting partner told me I should take that rock back and I should paint it. There's no shortcuts in life.
That's deep.
Right? Because I met that rock due to a shortcut. And so,
Right. And there's deeper meaning there all around.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, some of the stuff that you're talking about and some of the places you put yourself, in my opinion, is pretty badass, right? And so, I don't know what it is maybe, but yet some other people may think it's foolhardy, right? But when you've got that grit and you've got that determination and you go to these places and you do what you're saying and you're focused and you're doing all this stuff, what elements in your upbringing do you think gave you that quality of mind and spirit, that grit, that you hear people talk about grit or whatever it is, right? What gave you that to prepare and focus and have that determination and character that you apply today
Yeah, well, it starts off with Little League Baseball and playing soccer growing up, and then Pop Warner football, and later on rugby, hockey, you name it. But my parents were always firm in, once you start this, you're not quitting. And I didn't really even have a choice to start it in the first place. Like, you will try this. You're going to, and an instrument, musical instrument. I'm doing all these things extracurricular. It's really my parents just trying to push me. And then once I signed up, it was them following through and being good parents and saying, no, you don't get a sick day, even though you're going to go to school and you're going to get kids sick. I don't know if that's good or not, but there was no sick days. I even went in high school. I had appendicitis. I went into my mom's room. I was like, Mom, this is bad. I don't know what's happening, but something is not okay. I know I never come in. I never bother you because it's going to fall on deaf ears, but you might have to come get me. Halfway through school, I called her up. Hey, this is really bad. She's like, you're going to stick it out till the end of the day. My appendix almost burst. I went, I had to skip soccer, and I got my appendix out. I'm like, yeah, I told you something was wrong. We laugh about it, but that never quit mentality. And that could help me and it could hurt me currently with some of the stuff that I do now. But it's just, when you go out, Alaska's it's so huge, so diverse. There's so many different little climates within Alaska. And I could bore you with the statistics and all the data and the facts behind that, because I'm kind of actually a nerd. I call up ADF&G all the time. I'm combing the harvest reports. So it's immense and it's incredible. And there's so much ways that you can access it, so many different ways that you can hunt, whether it be on foot, highway vehicle, ATV, horseback, bicycles, or by airplane, which a lot of people air taxis, and then even private pilots. you say like I'm tough or I'm badass, man. I don't feel that at all. I'm just competing, and I go out there and I was just on this goat hunt. I'm like, oh, there's nobody up here. We need to get off the mountain because we're not going to be coming off these cliffs at dark, even with a headlamp. Like you make one wrong step, and I look over, I'm like, yep, there's a hunter, and we're sitting there thinking, oh yeah, we're deep. This is tough. Nobody's going to be up here. And we look over like, oh, there's a hunter. You kind of look at us. All right, we both got to get out at the same time. So, I mean, just competing. Right. A lot of guys get into positions that they absolutely should not be, and they're not prepared, and they just want to do it. And, I mean, I'm not going to discourage you from going out there and doing it, but there's a right way and there's a wrong way. And then also just Alaska's game rules and regulations. They're so diverse. You have to know. You can't claim ignorance. I mean, it's just tough with all the meat salvage, because the meat salvage is different in the state of Alaska. People leaving edible meat up on the mountain. And really, I mean, you can be an outlaw without even knowing it.
Right.
It's really heavy. This is really tough. I'm going to debone it in the field. Well, you can't debone it until after October 1st in this unit, or after October 30th. And there's all these different nuances that, like, a lot of the times before I even do anything, notch the tag. I'm like, all right, I know everything. I've got pictures on my cell phone of the game regs, but even in the first few pages, there's things that you don't even know about. You're like, well, I didn't know that. So It's just, you have to be in the know always. And, like I'm human. I mean, I'm not going to say that I don't make mistakes. Absolutely, I make mistakes, but game violations you just can't do. And the right thing, even though we notched the tag for this last goat, like I really thought, like, I know if you even take hair, if you do anything in this unit for bears or goats, you have to notch your tag anyways, and that's just the right thing to do. And and some people wouldn't even know that. Like, oh, let me go out. I mean, Ted Nugent got rung up a few years ago for shooting a bear in coastal Alaska. He shot a bear, wounded it on TV, and after they couldn't find it, he goes out, continues the hunt as you would, shoots another bear, and he came under fire because he wounded a bear. And if you wound a bear, you have to notch your tag, and you're done hunting. So, wow. I mean, and he does he's Uncle Ted. He does everything right. You have to if you're doing everything on TV. And he just didn't know one of these small regulations hidden. So just Alaska is it's unique. So there's a lot of opportunity, but just because there's opportunity doesn't mean you should try to take it. And then also being an Alaska resident, I live here in Alaska. I left for college. I came back as quick as I could once I got my start in the outdoor industry and, filming TV shows. I got a little taste of that. I'm like, no, I need to get back home and do whatever I need to do to keep my Alaska residency and be able to hunt. But then you realize, like right now I'm looking out and it's just nasty. Winter's coming. It's dark, cold, depressing. And there's this allure of, let's go to Alaska and be Alaska residents. And people make it Chicacos. You make it through your first year. You're no longer a Chicaco. You got your residency and you're like, I'm ready to leave. This is gnarly. And it's a different beast. And a lot of people have this romance of Alaska. It's like, man, try staying here for 365 and tell me who you are after that. So, and there's a lot of people now who are trying to take advantage of the residency thing. Oh, I'm going to live here for a few months and now I'm going to leave. And I call them fake Alaskans. There's reality TV shows. There's all this stuff. It's just kind of like, oh man.
I mean, Alaska's gotten a lot of attention, in the last 5 to 10 years, more than it ever has, right? I mean, even on a political level, a hunting level. I mean, there's lots of, you name it, right?
Absolutely.
And so the Last Frontier is mesmerizing for many. I would have to say that I'm mesmerized by it. I can't wait to get there. I'm really looking forward to creating some adventures and memories in the wilderness of Alaska as well. But I haven't even tamed all of the country where I live now.
Right.
So I mean, and so do I have a place up there at this point? Maybe to a point, but like you're saying, know who you are, prepare for where you are physically, mentally, instructionally, know what's going on, because, and if you don't, then you better have someone with you that does, because otherwise, like you say, Alaska can eat you up in a heartbeat.
A lot of places can, absolutely. It's funny, you say like, "Oh, we're bad boys," and whatever. No, we're just competing with your average Joes. Like I just call Mission Alaska average Alaska. Like we go out and we do everything right, but to compete, you've got these. I call them silent giants, like guys that you should probably be doing podcasts with, but they're just so silent. They don't want anybody to know anything about social media, and they're out there killing giants. Whether it's selfishly. Right. I've got a super cub. I'm going to fly and land. I'm going to hunt solo, and I know myself. I know this, and they're going to take a Boone and Crockett animal, a mature animal. They're trophy hunters, but they still fill their freezers. There's just silent giants out there, and everywhere. Yeah. Down in Oregon, down in Washington, guys who are killing great animals and don't want any recognition for it other than they're just testing themselves, seeing what type of grit they have in their saddle. So
that's right.
It's hard. It's just coming at it from a place of just, ultimate humbleness of like, I am nothing. There's people that do so much more. I'm competing, and I'm just out there and trying to not interfere with other people's hunt while still trying to be successful. And you get out in some of these places and you're like, there's not going to be – there's a hunter. There's a hunter. You're like, who is it? Find out through social media. Oh, that's a guide and his client. Or that's that's, you run into so-and-so.
And nowadays, there's a lot more people going there. I mean, the equipment's given us that opportunity. The training levels we can acquire as just normal Joes is better. So we're able to get more backcountry, get further in the wilderness now than we used to. And of course, even like I've kind of heard in Alaska that, even the four-wheelers and the side-by-sides, they're getting further than they ever used to. I mean, they're reaching points where air taxi could only get 10 years ago. And so it's, and where does Alaska, so that brings me to a question. I mean, I had another one, but let's just move right on to this. So you're on the committee for Alaskan Game and Fish, right? An advisory committee. Is that how I understand it?
Advisory committee. Yes, sir. So we all get together and agree on regulation change based on proposals, and then we submit them to the board of directors, and they're the all end all. They're the ones who actually make the decision, but we just influence that decision by our support, speaking with local sportsmen and other hunters and outdoorsmen and women.
So with that being said, can you divulge to us any information? Where is Alaska Game and Fish on this accessibility issue that's coming up? Where do we draw the line with side-by-sides or four-wheelers or mountain bikers or whatever that are taking, advantage of what they're allowed to do? But at what point do we realize that there's too much access? I mean, now, I think maybe Alaska is a different animal than where I'm at, but because your country is it's just freaking amazing, right? I mean, there's still places that there's probably never been a human being, and maybe the same here in Colorado, but, what's Alaska doing on that level? Is there discussions? Are we in that realm?
Well, currently, like we just had a proposal, and I'm not even sure what I'm allowed to talk about or not, but, there's a proposal that the DNR wants to charge people if they're going to have a tree stand, whether it's for bear baiting or moose hunting, whatever, they want to charge people to a fee, an application to be able to keep their tree stand in the woods or their litter or, their blue tarp or their camp, whatever it may be. So you've got all different, Alaska's trying to minimize any type of federal regulations where they affect us. The state of Alaska wants to manage itself. Period. So we're all like a united front there, and you have all these different groups, whether they're for hunting or against hunting. You've got the cruise ships that are trying to, minimize bear takes so that the tourists can see bears in certain units, and
I never thought of that.
Oh my gosh, it's endless, and I'm sitting there in the meetings, and I'm like, all right, I read this I know exactly how I feel about this, and then somebody says something in the committee, I'm like, oh, whoa.
Wow.
I didn't even think about that. So it's diverse, and like just recently with this access issue that you're talking about, you're allowed to hunt in certain state parks, and you've got to be certain distance away from roadways. But I hunt a state park for moose hunting and the surrounding areas, and there's also national parks that you can't hunt in. But we ran into some airboaters, and I did not have a good experience because where they're located, you're not allowed to create trails in a state park. You're not allowed to fold
Okay.
down trees with an airboat.
Right.
You're not allowed to cut trees in the state parks, and they're opening up scars in the tundra, and you're kind of like, man, that's not okay. Am I going to say anything about it? No, I don't. I don't tell them. I'm not a tattletailer, which is just. I mean, it takes somebody to do something, but it takes a united front and versus a he said, she said. So it's just kind of like let it go. But like I said with the advisory committee, that was just a personal experience, and this group is taking blue tarps and they're putting them at every single corner of a river and every single corner of this area, blue tarps, and this is my hunting spot because there's a blue tarp here. Oh, that's my tree stand. This whole area is my area. It's like, dude, you're closing down the whole area, and you have private hunters who are acting like commercial guide services. So there's and like I run into guides a lot when I get out there because I get deeper and further, and then it's the guide issue of non-residents and commercial activity, a guide being paid for that. That's his livelihood. So it's kind of like, well, you guys were here first, and I don't want to affect that because I'm not trying to spoil somebody's experience of Alaska that they paid money for, and also that money is going towards conservation and wildlife more so than the residents are paying for, in a sense, because they're paying. Now, if that guide stays here and spends that money, that's one thing, but there's a lot of out-of-state guides, and that's another issue for another day. But this whole access issue is just kind of, there's people who are trying to make money off of it, like the DNR trying to make money, federal money, to be able to save this, and it just makes more headaches for everybody because now I have my tree stand in this tree. This is my area. It's like, well, that's my tree, actually. So I can cut that tree down. So it's like, oh my gosh, guys. I just try to be as non-confrontational as I possibly can, but still you end up in these a guide will come in, you're in my area, how'd you even get in here? Because guides have relationships with air taxi services, and the air taxis aren't supposed to drop people in certain areas, and there's all sorts of access issues and people trying to control stuff. It's actually overwhelming, and a lot of people don't even know what I'm even saying. But as you become more of a backcountry hunter or getting deeper into Alaska, you run into different situations that you're like, I didn't even know that I wasn't supposed to be here. Which you're allowed to be there, but you're in a guide's area, and you're taking away his livelihood. So it's kind of
So isn't that kind of the unspoken rule? I mean, right? Is that not an unspoken rule that, like, when you run into a guide's area in some format and you know that it's his livelihood, how he feeds his children, things like that? Isn't that kind of the unwritten rule that you do that? You're kind of like, hey, just like when you show up on a wallow, right? And there's someone there, like, okay, peace out. I'll go find my own, right?
Right. Well, if somebody's there first, if somebody's hunting something first, obviously that's the rule. I mean, they're there first. You can't blow by them. Well, and if you do, it's kind of like, wow, okay, that wasn't very sportsman. But as far as like the guide areas are huge, and it's like, well, I know you guys are here. I see that you're hunting this boar, this basin. I'll go around the backside, and I won't affect your hunt. And the same thing, if you're there first and a guide comes in, hey, I was here first, man. I know it's your livelihood, but I have just as much of a right, if not more, because furthermore, I live here during the winters. I don't know where you're at during the winters, but I live here through the dark, depressing cold to maintain my Alaska residency.
Shit.
I earned this.
Earned this.
And that's how I feel with Mission Alaska. I'm like, no, I earned this. I feel strongly about this. I come at it with kid gloves still. I'm not a tough guy in the field. You don't want to be tough ever, just because it's just you're in a situation. And then furthermore, you get tough with somebody in the field, you might find yourself in a survival situation, emergency situation, and that other person may save your ass, period. So you're like, hey, you got to be nice. I know there's plenty of area for everybody to get along. What do you want to do? We were here first. We know you're hunting over here, but you can't reserve this entire mountain. You can't reserve this entire basin. You can't reserve this entire river. Where do you want to do? You want to hunt downriver? We'll hunt up. We'll hunt the left side. You hunt the right. What do you want to do? We'll make this work.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the same protocol we use here for the most part. I mean, I just think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
whether it's
absolutely.
written or not written. It's just the right thing to do as hunters
Yep.
and sportsmen, because there's enough controversy within this industry amongst people that are in the same industry to let it carry over into the mountain when we're
Yep.
all there for the same purpose.
Like I
It
said,
can get out of hand, right?
you might need them. Just you might need some assistance down the road, and the self help versus calling in the state troopers with their helicopter or the Coast Guard or whoever may be, the Forestry Service. It's like, hey,
Hitting the button.
hitting the button, like, I need some help. And sometimes that happens, and I could bore you again on jet boating stories and survival on the river, and people who were kind of jerks was like, well, you may need us, let's pull over anyways, even though we had an interesting conversation. Do you need help? Are you okay? First and foremost, like, hey,
Right.
you don't want somebody to be hurt and broken, bleeding, and then you get home and feel bad because somebody didn't make it out, and you could have helped them. It's like, man, check the ego completely. We're all here together. Let's just let's make this feel good.
Yeah. Well, and it may not feel good, but you're still going to do what's right.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Exactly.
So, one thing, real quick though, I got a bunch of other places I want to take you, but what you said that Alaska's trying to keep the feds out, and you guys are trying to run your own state. Now, when you look at the fight for public lands, and you look at all this controversy around the conservation of the public lands, a lot of people are really opposed to state level ownership, right? Because they don't have the funds, the management, the ability to take care of it, so then they'll lose it to the private entity. What do you think has been the number one successful thing for Alaska, and what they've done to be successful at being state managed and not allowing the feds in? What can these other states learn?
All right. Well, it's and I don't even believe that I'm even qualified to begin to answer this question fully, but
Just your own opinion. Just
from
your
my own
opinion of what
opinion,
you see. Yeah.
some of the greatest things that we've set up is large areas like state parks and public use recreational areas like the Nelchina recreational use area, where hunters such as myself and my family rely on, a caribou a year, whether it be subsistence or not. We're still able to go to the grocery store. I mean, we live a civilized life here. You can live as far out and in the bush as you want to, but within Alaska, I mean, we're developed, especially in these areas, the Anchorage, Fairbanks to down to Juneau. Like there's infrastructure. Absolutely. We have IHOPs and Targets and Sportsman's Warehouses right here. So it's kind of like this Alaska, but then the further out you get, absolutely, there's still absolute Alaska. But what we've done is, with our political, just a political stand front, and our governors, we really they listen to what we have to say. Generally speaking, if the squeaky wheel gets the grease, if we're speaking loudest about it and are strongly opinionated, there is going to be something done. But as far as what we've set up with the state parks, what we've set up with these recreational use areas, that has been kind of our saving grace, because there's still so much land. Then there's native land, and they can do whatever they want with it. And then there's battles over the native land with the feds, and then traditional use access to different areas like Clutina River Road right now. It's in a big, hey, the feds want to own that. They want to take it over. The native agencies are going back and forth. And then meanwhile, the sportsman's like, hey, I know that's native land, but this is traditional use road. This is traditional access. So what do? There's kind of like some of these keystone political events that are happening right now for Alaska. And I believe the more that we can keep within the state, the better. And, there's certain land that you can't even buy. You can't even privatize these tracts of land. And furthermore, it's almost like uneconomical to even get there and try to develop something, because it's so far out and there's not going to be any infrastructure to keep it going. So having these state parks, I believe there should be more state parks with more, minimize access, more rules around regulations, like sticking to a waterway versus being able to airboat in and just destroy land, or ATV and just destroy land just because it's a recreational area and you can do that. You're creating a trail that goes further and deeper, which is, I don't want to pack my moose a mile. I'll just drive the four-wheeler right to it, and now you just made a trail. And then people making more trails to cabins. So it is such a hard question on what we're doing to keep Alaska, and keep these opportunities open, I have to do a lot more research, but that's just personal opinion. And where I come from is it's great to be able to get on the 4-wheeler, and now there is trails, and we can go out and we can hunt, for the Nelchina caribou herd. And there's still ways that we can jet boat to our state parks. There's ways that we can access it without hurting the land. And I mean, ATVs open up scars, big time scars, versus the airplanes. They're landing on established strips and big air tires. They're not scorching the entire earth, and then it's on foot from there. But it's an interesting battle where I certainly wouldn't want to restrict a ATV user from going and doing something that they've done the last 20 years and their family to do so. It's just, it doesn't feel right. But at the same time, you fly over, if you're in an airplane, you fly over and you just see these scars going across Alaska, and then say, hey, I used to be able to go there and ride my bike there. But now with these big track tires and track vehicles, they're making bogs down into the mud and the muskeg and then you have to go around it, and it's just like it's nasty.
It just gets worse and worse. It just keeps expanding, doesn't it?
Yep. So I don't know. I don't even know where to go with that. I don't know what the right answer is. But if you're mowing stuff down with an ATV, I don't know how right that is.
Right. Yeah.
But I do. I'm on my ATV, and my wife got a caribou this year, and we parked at the top of the trail and we hiked down to it. We could have rode our 4-wheeler to it. And I was like, let's earn it. Let's earn this. Yeah. And we did it. Right. And she remembered it more. And it's just kind of like, not everyone's going to feel that way, but I certainly feel a lot better hiking it out on my back, little sweat equity, and then just remembering it more. It just makes it sweeter.
Well, and right doesn't equal easy, and right doesn't always equal hard. I mean, right is just right, and wrong is just wrong. And whatever comes with that being right is the way it is. It's just the way it is. Deal with it. Deal with it and do it and move on, right? Well, I appreciate you giving me that, some of your personal thoughts on that. I mean, it is a controversial thing, and public land and federal and state levels and access and all that stuff. I don't know where the common ground or the middle ground is ever going to be. But it's always interesting to hear somebody's take on it, on a personal level. So something we'll switch gears and get a little bit back to some of your personal life a little bit. What's your most memorable wilderness experience that you've ever had?
Oh man, I hope that when I get older, I still have my mind. That's why I tell people, I'm like, hey, just hope that I, don't have early onset Alzheimer's, because I've got terrible memory. It's just. But some of the experiences, man, that is so tough, because I always try to test myself. I mean, whether it was my last year, a Boone and Crockett moose hunt, spent 24 days on the Yukon, flew to the Yukon. That was huge. I'll never forget that. That's one of our short films, one of our anthems, so to speak. As we get better at the short film game, I look at some of the earlier stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. This is so bad. Right. I should just take this down, actually. I should just... Now that we
don't ever do that. No, yeah, don't ever do that. No. That's bad. Just keep. Oh, God. You know what? Like you said, you've been transparent and you've been real through this, and so you have to allow it to stay up there.
This last year, I mean, we were talking about goat hunts. I almost lost my finger on a goat hunt. Right there. Look at that. Got it cut in half, and that was a learning experience. It was like, well, I'll just duct tape it down real good. I can lose a pinky. I still see the goat. Went up and shot my first muzzleloader goat, which was cool, but lost the horns, and that was a great experience and a great memory. But just this last year, kind of my goal, I've only harvested so far a black bear and a Dall sheep this year. My main goal is, I played college athletics. I was at Penn State and had some pretty good physical conditioning. I try to keep up on that with old injuries. It just is what it is. So I try to keep my baseline of like, all right, I'm as good as I once was. And this year, all I wanted to do was this solo Dall sheep hunt. And I really didn't want it to be solo. I wanted to go with my brother, and I had made previous commitments for my wife's caribou and everything. And before you know it, it was like, all right, I'm going solo for sure. Definitely. Right. I need this. No matter what, I need this. I put everyone before me, and the one thing that I want is this Dall sheep hunt. So I went out and I did a solo Dall sheep hunt that I filmed, and I'm currently editing. But that'll probably come at the
Cool.
very end. I'll edit everybody else's, but it was one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had in my life. I had just lost my grandfather, and I was really tough. And I was flying out, and I got the call. I'm like, I can't. I'm caught in. What do I do? Turn around. I paid for all my flights out to go and do this, and it was like, well, I'm human. This was my budget. I don't know how I can go to my grandpa's funeral in Pennsylvania. So I just decided to dedicate it to my grandfather, this hunt. And I think Grandpa was with me, because where I shot the sheep, you shouldn't shoot sheep. I mean, I was off a riverbed and he was right there. And I'm like, oh my, are you kidding me? I get to experience this. And I'm like, Grandpa put this sheep right in front of me. I believe that he honestly put him off in front of me. Whether that was a guide unknowingly pushing sheep and they were crossing down from another range or another group of hunters,
right.
I don't know. And it's just kind of like that spiritual intervention, whether religious or not, whether it was God, Grandpa, whatever, something up above gave me this opportunity. And I filmed it, and it meant the world to me. It absolutely really meant the world to me. And furthermore, my wife knew that I needed that. She's like, you go for however long you need. You go and you do this. Right. You need this. And that's got to be my most memorable hunt of the year. But I don't know, of a lifetime, man. I've experienced so many cool adventures with so many different people that it's hard to nail it down. But just this last year, this one, honestly, it meant the most to me. And I know that's a little bit selfish because I am selfless for my wife and everybody else. But like, I needed that. I needed it.
Right. We're, as men, as hunters, as providers, there's a certain element to running a certain amount of solo time every year, I think. So I don't find it selfish. I always take a little bit of solo time right in the beginning. So I'm kind of the opposite of you. This year I took some solo time because my kids' stuff, one of my kids didn't come back home about midway through archery. The other one was muzzleloader. So there was a couple weekends there in the beginning where I had the opportunity to go and do some solo, and then also some with some buddies, and then I phased into the kids stuff, but that was just kind of because of the way the tags fell. But that was, I can only imagine that was there's different levels of toughness to a hunt, right? Some are physically demanding, some are mental, right? And going in to get that animal, knowing that your grandfather passed and you're flying in and you're doing all this stuff. I mean, I'm sure that was, a life-changing event, and it was maybe one of the toughest events because you still had to go and focus. You still had to go and do what you had to do. And like you say, maybe whatever reason that animal was there for you, where it was, whatever, is, maybe that was his way of easing your mind, easing your heart, easing your soul, giving to where you didn't find yourself in one of those life-threatening moments and being mentally not there because you're thinking of your grandpa, or you know what I mean? So maybe that was it. Maybe, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's why we do it, though. I mean, it truly, honestly, I feel it makes us better people at the end of the day, successful or not. And just, I believe, Grandpa was there with me, and that really, it put me at ease. I'm dedicating this film to my grandpa, and oh man, I teared up. I was all by myself, and even capturing that moment where I'm like, I don't even care about the camera. I know it's rolling, but this is just so special. And then I ended up savoring it. I asked the pilot, hey, you might be able to land up here, and he said, earn it. So I packed the whole thing out. I'm going to do a full mount. So it's going to be I've never done a full mount before. I like to do as much taxidermy as I can, but this was just so special. My wife's like, yeah, you earned it. Whatever we got to do, we'll come up with the money. So we're,
It seems to me like that would be the one, right? That
Absolutely.
would be the one, and I feel you there. So you've had the opportunity to hunt with some pretty cool people, right? And I think that in looking back through your social media a little bit on Instagram, did I recognize Matt Hughes?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you did. Yep. Yeah, Matt Hughes, Larry Weissoon, Blake Barnett, Willie Schmidt, Mike Hanbeck of Big Deer. The bucks at Tecumate I filmed. I've done a lot in the industry where it was just kind of, you won't ever see me, or you might see me in a time lapse or something like that, and you'll never recognize me. But yeah, I've done some pretty cool hunts. I've filmed some pretty cool hunts, and just been a part of just some incredible adventure.
So was Matt Hughes ready for Alaska? Was he ready?
Did you catch the episode? Have you seen it yet?
No, I didn't get to see the episode. I just saw the still photo of the two of you.
Oh man, there was some good stuff in there. Well, he'd never been. He put it this way: Matt Hughes had never set up a tent before in his life. He hadn't been in a hunt like that, and I was his cameraman for a couple seasons there, and I don't know how many hunts. But we were filming some pretty real hunts. I'm like, man, you need to. You're the hardworking, you're the average man, butt kicker, UFC dude. Like, hey, you need to come out. We need to go out on a hunt. You pick the area. I'll give you the flight services contact. Let's go out on a hunt. I'll film it for free. I'll do whatever you want. Let's go. And we're great buddies at this stage. And he's like, done. Right. Let's go do it. DIY moose hunt. I'm like, you pick the spot. We'll go do it. And he's like, well, how far can we get from Anchorage? I'm like, I don't know. Ask the flight service. So we got with Sportsman's Air Service, which is Ben Knapp, my great buddy. We grew up playing sports together and graduated together. He's actually in the same graduating class as my wife and I. And we're like, hey, Ben's out guiding in a different area. And we ended up going with Jake Williams. And Jake, we got into this spot. And it was great. It was just a great learning experience. I shot a bear. Matt shot a bear. And, I'm like, well, you've never got a moose. I've got a moose before. We both have moose tags. He's like, yeah, okay. So we finally called one in near the end of the hunt. And, he shot a really nice moose. But I think the whole Alaska hunt really opened up his eyes to, wow, this is extreme. And then, 2 weeks after that, we linked back up and flew down to British Columbia, and I filmed his goat hunt. And I think Alaska really prepped him mentally for that, because when you come up, he was away from his family. He's a family-oriented man, just a great person all around. Totally. And he was away from his family where he couldn't talk on the phone as much with the sat phone. He could, but like, we'll save the batteries and the minutes for when we really need them. So he had his inReach, one of the first inReaches, and he was buried in that inReach. And you just see him every time I look over at him. He's sitting there. We're underneath a trash bag and a poncho, and he's flipping through family photos of him at Disneyland with his kids and his family. So it was just really cool to be a part of that, and kind of Matt Hughes' break-in period to like serious wilderness hunting. So it was just cool,
Have you seen? Do you know of Gladiators Unleashed? Luke Cadillo, he started Gladiators Unleashed, and so he's taking all these fighters that and he takes them out and he's teaching them, getting their hunter safety, teaching them how to shoot a gun, all this stuff. Is like you say, the Matt Hughes break-in period, and so he's doing a bunch of that stuff, and it's really cool what he's doing, and what they're putting out on YouTube is pretty sweet. I dig it.
Yeah, absolutely. The UFC crowds, it seems like they're coming into the hunting realm. Same with like the rodeo crowd. Just you got some rough and tough characters, and it's good. It's good. It's good. It is good. For the sport of hunting in general, and just increase that inspiration. To get out there and go do your own adventures is cool.
Now you've been around a lot. I mean, people that that most people would be starstruck over, or different things like that, and you've had the opportunity to really get to know people on their real levels in different ways. But who do you really look up to in your life? Who's your hero?
Oh man. Well, one of them, and I didn't know who is. I knew who he was, Mr. Whitetail, Larry Weishuhn. I had the opportunity to film with him, and we went through some stuff on a hunt. It was just really gnarly, and I didn't realize that I've been looking up to him almost my whole life, and how he treats, when you get into with some of these individuals, we're all humans, and we treat people around us how we're going to treat them. But he was just the sweetest, most just authentic person that I've been around, and it's not just a front, all the way around. So, and just when it got tough, he was there, mentally there, and we were doing some stuff. I'm like, this is some gnarly weather. We're soaking wet, but we're gonna get this show. The Bears are gonna take this L. We're gonna get this win, and we're gonna wrap this show. And I've been a part of different hunting camps where, like I said, the whole thing is like, man, you just shot a beautiful deer, and you're not happy whether it's you're not happy with the cameraman, and the cameraman's always at fault. It's always cameraman, like, all right, if I'll be your whipping post if you want me to be your whipping post, sure. If it makes you feel better, great. So, like I had some heroes in the industry, and, and just watching the TV and being able to even have the opportunity to watch TV and see these, have cable and watch some of these hunting shows. It's just, you think, oh, this person is this way. And then you get into the hunting field with them. You're like, oh, you're not the most solid person to not just your cameraman, but those around you. It's just kind of interesting. So, I watched Fred Bear. Fred Bear, obviously, he's been one of my greatest heroes of all time. And even, my father-in-law, Vince Pocriff, got me into traditional archery. And he's always been about the right thing, the sportsman thing to do. And he's always challenged me and never looked down on me for using a rifle, but he got me into archery. And now I'm going out on hunts with him. Like this last year, we could have shot several big bull moose, 60 yards, but they didn't come to trad bow range. And I'm like, Vince, you're my hero. I want to see you bury a moose right now to the fletching with a Port Arthur cedar shaft. And he's just hardcore in who he is. So he's been a hero. And then quite honestly, my brother is my biggest hero, Altitude Chiropractic. I helped him start the business, obviously, through what I learned in college. And that's been his big dream. And he, with my dad being gone and mom always working, my brother and I just have this really special relationship. And, he's been my hero, and now I'm his hero when we go out on hunts, and we're just, it's just an incredible love. But as far as, not being starstruck or anything, I mean, just because somebody is a star doesn't mean they're the greatest person in the world. And you meet them and you're you're not who I thought you were. So you never know. I mean, it's just, that's really hard. That's a deep question, man. But I honestly, Fred Bear and my father-in-law, my father, my brother, just great role models in life that have really pushed me in my breaking point of who I was and what I thought I was made of.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so a question that everybody gets here on Wilderness Attitude is, what does the wilderness mean to you? You've allowed it to shape you as a person. You've allowed a lot of different things. And, but what does it mean to you? Your soul, your heart, your being. What does it mean?
The wilderness means to me, what the wilderness means to me is life. It's more than the hunt. It is life. And furthermore, it transcends into who you are. It's your breaking point. It is the ultimate place to test yourself and become a better you.
I agree. That's one of our slogans is challenge the wilderness to challenge you back, right? Because
absolutely,
it will make you, break you, build you, defeat you. It can make you everything you are, like you say, in your life. And I think it is the ultimate challenge and empowerment, and it makes you look deep at yourself, right? Yeah,
closer than looking at yourself in the bathroom mirror. I mean, you really get an exact reference of what you're capable of, who you are, and let you reflect on, am I a good person? And if you don't get that from the wilderness experience, I don't know what you will get.
Right. You must not have been paying much attention while you were there, right?
Yeah, looking too much at your feet, huh?
Right. That's me. I don't look up enough when I'm hunting. Everybody tells me that. Like, you just always looking at the ground. Like, I don't know. It's a bad habit. But I feel like if I'm looking up, I step on stuff that I shouldn't step on and things, It's like, I don't know.
Same.
Now I started wearing glasses like 5 years ago, and so now I got to look under my glasses when I walk. I can see fine right here, right? But then I'm always trying to look underneath. That way I still got some peripheral up, but I don't know. I think it's one of my bad hunting characteristics. But is there something else you would like me to ask you, or that you'd just like to share to give a more complete picture of who you are or who you strive to be?
I just, right now in the time of social media, and you have all these social heroes and different people and are trying to promote a message, you really got to understand what the message is. And like I said, there's some people that you may think is a great person, and then you get a chance to meet them, and you're like, that is not the person who I thought they were. It completely changes everything. But in social media, why are you doing this? You know, what is your motives? What is this person's motives? You know, are they trying to get paid? Are they a good person? Like you said in the beginning, it doesn't matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter how beautiful your pictures are. You know, a lot of people just throw up a picture and they think it's a brag board, and that's not what it's about. You know, the story is what it's about. Are you a better person when you go out a field? Are you a better person? Even if you get defeated, even if you don't get anything, or you get a small something, it's not about that. Did you do it right? Did you do it ethically? Are you a good sportsman? And I feel social media could degrade that. I feel social media can promote that. I feel that social media is just a vehicle. It's a tool to inspire and send a message. And my thing to everybody who's listening is just, are you getting better? Are you being a better person? What are you doing it for? If you're doing it to fill your freezer, great. Is the story there? Is it a taste? Is it a classy picture of an animal? Is its tongue hanging out? Did you respect that animal? Did you respect yourself? And that's what it's about to me. Respecting yourself, respecting others. And it's not about, jumping on and letting the anti-hunters get to you and posting a really aggressive picture just to be cool. It's not about that whatsoever. I mean, you just got to delete, block, unfollow, or not let them see your stuff. It's not about trying to get the last laugh. How are you promoting the sport? And Jim Shockey, I mean, he said some great lines about, and that's another one of my heroes. I've met him, and he's just a great person all around. I should have said Jim. But Fred, he's different, modern day.
Nobody can rival Fred. Even in the modern day, no one can. I'm just saying.
No.
That's
saying.
my opinion.
Agree. So, and just because you have followers and just because you can post a picture, is it the right thing to do?
Right.
And to be proud. Be proud of your decisions. And if you're not proud of what you're going to do, then don't do it. That's my big message to kids, is doing it the right way, even to adults, to myself even. I mean, I try to preach it and try to be a better person, but that's why sometimes I get up and I'm filming and somebody's there. It's like, hey, I really want you to get it. And I look at them like, but you have a tag. And I've already shot this animal. Like, I just completely check the ego. It doesn't matter to me if I eat my tag or not at the end of the year. How are you going to feel about it at the end? Well, I just follow this guy around with his camera, up the nastiest stuff in the world. And he's going to shoot it, and I'm going to help him pack it, and he's not even paying me any money. It's like, no, you shoot it, I'll pack it, and we'll go down, and we're going to have the best time of our lives. So it's just, it's hunting means more than just a brag board. It's more than just a picture. It's honestly, you get that free time. That free time should be a time of reflection, and it should make you a better person and a better sportsman.
I couldn't agree more, and that's it. Wilderness Attitude, we're trying to portray that positive, or not portray, but deliver that message of positivity and transparency and real life and adventures and stories and cool stuff that's happening out there that's defining who you are or your family, or you're helping your kids get disconnected and get involved and just there's so many ways, right? And we're trying to find these people like yourself that have that type of character, that type of message, and that type of belief, because that's what we want people to hear. That's what we want people to understand, that we are out there, we are here, and we are real, and we're not going anywhere. We're building that next generation. We're building more infrastructure. We're doing our part to make sure that hunting continues and conservation continues and adventures and stories, campfire stories. And, like you say, you hope your memory's there, but the fact that you're filming it, you're putting it out there for anybody to see and be a part of, and you're vulnerable in that state, right? But that's the thing is every day you got to be considering your legacy.
Legacy.
Every decision.
Oh man, that's
every
deep.
day. But that's what you leave to your children.
Absolutely.
You leave them a legacy. You leave them the stories and the teachings and the things that define them, and that is your responsibility. It's my responsibility.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're striving for, right? And the name Wilderness Attitude is a positive attitude. It's not a demeaning attitude. right? It's that giving, it's that sharing, it's that whole embodiment of being right as best you can be. So
You're a cool dude, Brandon. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Austin, I totally appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate taking time out of your day, probably away from your wife at this point. Thank you, Jordan. And I wish you guys all the best in what you're doing. Where can people find you on social media so that they can get their hearts and souls filled up with what you're doing?
Absolutely. Basically, Instagram and our YouTube is where we promote the most. And that's, our handle is mission_Alaska. And you can see a lot of our disappearing stories to stay up to date and kind of what we're doing there. That's a lot of fun. And then some of our short films will be on YouTube, of course. And you can see some of them in the film festivals that travel. So we'll submit a few of our films there as well.
Cool. And then people can follow you personally, I think, as well, right? If you want them to. But I think they should.
Yeah, no, it's good. I don't do as much on Facebook anymore. I'm trying to, keep with the trend of the next generation, and a lot of the minds are on Instagram, and that's just kind of the new platform, and now even Snapchat. So my handle there is at Austin Manelick, and you can follow along there as well.
Sweet. Well, I'm really looking forward to following along, and I know that in the next year or so I'll be up there in your neck of the woods, and we'll get a chance to shake each other's hands and hang out. Sound good?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, brother. I'm
Excellent.
an hour north of Anchorage. I'm in Palmer, Alaska. Hometown hero right here, baby. Palmer,
Yeah,
come find me.
I'm on my way, bro. I'm on my way.
We'll bump fists for real, brother.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Austin. Have a great day. We appreciate you.
You too, man. Good luck
All
hunting.
right. Thank you. You too.
Later.
Thanks for tuning into the podcast. I sure hope you're enjoying them. These series on Alaska have been great. I appreciate every one of you as a listener. I hope you guys are enjoying what we're doing. I don't get a lot of feedback, so I need you listeners to go out there. I need you to blow me up here a little bit. I need you to blow up my email. I need you to blow up reviews, iTunes, Podbean, our website, whatever. Get a hold of me and tell me if we're 2 thumbs up or if we suck, because we're going to continue to do these segments of areas and places and people and different things in the wilderness and the outdoors, and we want to know what you're thinking. We want to know what you want. This podcast is for you, the listener. It's for you to enjoy when you have the time, and it's for us to empower you, give you information, give you, adventures and stories, these men and women who live in the spirit of the wilderness, no matter what they're doing. So hit me, would you? Hit me with your best shot. I want to know what's going on out there. This is Brandon Waddell, your host of Wilderness Attitude. Thanks for tuning in.